Part 113. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1125. The woman in black dress, the star magnet saint, still did not make a sound. Mother, considering that mother and son have known each other for thousands of years, can't you still look past the past grudges? A hollow man's voice echoed in the airship. Holy Lord of the Black Knife, the woman in the black dress sighed, a trace of tiredness flashing in her eyes. Whether I become the Holy Lord or not, you are still my mother, the voice replied sincerely. Uncle Wall is entangled and cannot escape within 5 days. Obviously the pilot's actions will be within these 5 days. If we don't unite this time, we may not even be able to save this last foundation, the voice said slightly excitedly. My brother Manon was also entangled, and unexpectedly encountered a giant new space-time storm, and was blown into a distant counter-space dimension. It must be a similar situation with the backlight Holy Lord. The other party has already begun to make plans. We are cutting out all the king-level experts who can help us. It seems that this time we really want to kill them all. I don't know how many masters there are in the major sects now. It feels like enemies are everywhere, Star Magnetic Saint Lord said in a low voice. Their main target is the 3 of us, and if they want to deal with us, they must first eliminate the Demon King's transformation team under our command. So I think we can use the Demon King's transformation team to draw out part of the opponent's hidden strength for cutting and solving the Black Knife, Holy Lord said simply. Of course the plan is simple, but the operation is complex. Holy Lord Star Magnetic did not answer, but just lowered his eyes. Mother, if you don't answer, will I take it as your acquiescence? Asked the Black Knife, Holy Lord. It's up to you, but no matter what, I don't want to meet Niguang again. Lord Star Magnetic waved his hand, and a terrifying invisible huge force field instantly repelled Lord Black Knife's projection force field. The Saint has also considered this, the 9th-level man who led the team who reported earlier said. He asked his subordinates to bring something, saying that if you read it, you will definitely change your mind. Something? Star Magnetic Saint Lord asked, slightly puzzled. Show me. Yes, the men respectfully took out a small black box from the dimensional ring. It was square and had a ferocious black dragon head pattern engraved on it. When he let go of his hand, he saw the box floating invisible and automatically flying into the palm of the Star Magnetic Saint Lord. This is Holy Lord. Star Magnetic opened the box and scoffed. Her eyes suddenly widened. Slowly, she looked down at her belly. There was a short black spear that was extremely sharp and pierced directly into his lower abdomen. The short spear was completely black and extremely cold. At this moment, the entire spear body was rapidly decomposing, turning into large swaths of black bugs, which continued to penetrate into his abdominal cavity along the lower abdominal wound. Each of these bugs is like a miniature black beetle, only the size of a fingernail, but there are just too many of them. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of the Black Knife Star Magnetic Holy Master's mouth in disbelief. Boom! The violent force field tried to explode, but at some point an extremely tough space barrier appeared around it. The face of the man who spoke before suddenly changed. After a few twists, it turned into the stiff face of Shinandi. Holy Lord Star Magnetic, your son has already surrendered to the Empire. Only you and Niguang are stubborn. Shinandi, Zinkai said with difficulty. Her whole body began to tremble violently, as if her body was being eaten by a large number of insects and she couldn't bear it. The force field undergoes complex transformations, transforming into a variety of attributes, but none of them have any effect on the black bugs. Sure enough, the person who knows you best is the most dangerous person. Zinkai smiled bitterly. She knew that this was really what her son had done to target her. He even knows every bit of his countermeasures and secret powers. In a head-on confrontation, the only person I'm afraid of is you. It's rare to have a good opponent, but it's a pity, Shinandi said regretfully. Everything is for the sake of His Majesty's overall situation, and I have to sacrifice my personal hobbies. Bang! In an instant, Xingmei exploded and turned into a large number of black bugs that covered the entire mothership hall. And because there were space barriers around, the 9th level people outside didn't notice it at all. A human figure separated from Shinandi's body, and suddenly shot out and landed on the position where Star Magnet originally stood. After a sudden change in face and body shape, the human figure suddenly transformed into a new Star Magnet Saint Lord. Exactly the same as the original. Seeing Magi is dead, a female team member behind Shinandi asked lazily. No, Shinandi replied lightly, she was plotted by the black insects of the Black Blade, devoured and divided into 250,000 parts. Although her body disintegrated, her final disc has not been found yet. Without the battle body that has been successfully condensed through all the hard work, what's the use of having the final plate to entrust the soul? I can only find another body, but the strength it exerts is far less than the original, the female team member said casually. There are not many after thousands of years of accumulation, she won't have a chance to rise again. Indeed, another team member nodded. NZI has been put down, let's go. Shinandi ignored the conversation between the two, dispersed the space barrier, bowed slightly towards the new Star Magnetic Saint Lord, and turned to leave. Send the messenger. The cold female voice of the Star Magnetic Saint came out. One of several 9th level people flew out and glanced at Shinandi with grey hair. Let's go. He didn't notice at all that the saint had been replaced, and he didn't know that the man in front of him was the real light of justice, Shinandi, who was also the same Holy Master level master. The game was temporarily stopped. After Zhuolong showed off his power on the battle stage for a while, he slowly retreated. The White Lion had already gone down to rest and didn't bother to pay attention to the 9 dragons. Black Yao was directly beaten to the point of collapse by Garen and is receiving emergency treatment. The finals are temporarily suspended, and the rest of the rankings will be competed for the next day. The top 3 have been decided, but there are still other rankings to be determined, so the real competition begins, in fact, many days later. These other rankings besides the 3 major schools are the real goals that everyone wants to compete for. After all, everyone is used to the fact that the 3 major sects of the magnetic field Black Knife Nebula are ranked 3rd, and ordinary weapon masters cannot compare with them. Garen was in the arena, but he always felt a slight sense of alienation. At night, he took Chixu's people back to the hotel where he was staying. After settling down Hongguo and others and all their subordinates. Everything is arranged, just waiting for the final result. With nothing to do in the hotel, he simply took Bing Crack and Bing Hao out of the room and wanted to go shopping outside. As soon as he stepped out of the elevator and reached the elevator entrance in the lobby on the 1st floor, he saw He Yao leaning against the door, seemingly waiting for him. Let's go for a walk together. He Yao glanced sideways at Garen. There was a faint green smoke floating from a cigarette in his mouth. Okay, a voice came from under Garen's helmet. Leader of the faction, this is a critical moment, Bing Hao reminded with a frown, trying to dissuade him. It doesn't matter, Garen raised his hand. If someone really wants to do harm to me, it's useless for you to stop them. Bing Hao and Bing Crack exchanged glances. Knowing that Garen always had the character to speak his mind, he lowered his head and took a step back. Please send the master to go and come back early. You can go back and move around freely. After all, you should have old friends to see when you come here, right? Garen said calmly. Yes. He Yao walked in front, and Garen followed behind. After the two walked out together, Reese was waiting at the door of the hotel. She was accompanied by her boyfriend Dios, both of whom looked a little embarrassed. Senior brother He Yao, several disciples of Nebula bowed their heads and saluted when they saw He Yao. Alliance leader. The disciples of the Red Snow Alliance who had just entered the hotel in groups also saluted Garen. No need to be deliberate, everyone is free to do as they please. Garen and He Yao walked out of the hotel one after another. Hey Yao walked in front and looked back at Reese. Together. Reese held Dio's arm tightly, but was pushed by her boyfriend. Go, Dio's whispered, but he couldn't hide it from Garen and the other two. High-pitched opera music came from an unknown concert hall in the distance, and the woman's sharp and long voice floated far away in the night. With a certain ethereal and mysterious rhythm. Reese gritted her teeth and followed. Not far from the hotel, there is a row of green willow trees neatly arranged on the river bank. Hey Yao kicked on the willow tree. How much effort did you make today? Tell the truth. Garen gently took off his helmet, revealing a face that had not seen the sun for a long time. It was cold and strong, and a white V-shaped mark between his eyebrows gave him a hint of aloof and terrifying majesty. This is the sense of individual existence that increases infinitely after reaching level 10. This level is like the sun, it is absolutely impossible to be ignored wherever you go. This is the natural attraction of the soul caused by the law of universal gravitation reaching a certain strength. No effort, Garen said honestly. Hey Yao suddenly became depressed. Does that mean you stand and let me beat you without fighting back? Isn't this what you asked for? Garen laughed. Don't be unreasonable. Damn it, Hey Yao punched the willow tree, is the gap between us really so big? I'm a genius. I can't beat you even if I beat you. Hey Yao gritted his teeth, you are a pervert. People have never said this to me before. I didn't expect that I would say this to others. So I don't want to hurt your self-confidence, but that's the fact. There's nothing we can do about it. Garen was speechless. I said that I would lead the Red Snow sect to rise again, and my words must not be ignored. How to rise? The competition is only to compare the strength and potential of the disciples, and the competition to divide the territory will not be held. He Yao asked with a bitter face. Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression suddenly became a little weird and a little shocked. Don't you think so? Yes, that's it. Garen nodded affirmatively. It's a competition for hegemony between schools. Any school that is dissatisfied with the ranking can challenge the school in front of it. It's a life or death final, Reese said from the side. Usually after the competition, there will be an exhibition-style competition, because the competition can usually determine the ranking of the schools. According to the regulations, if there are dissatisfaction with this ranking, the leader of the school can personally or send a master to come on stage, but it must be a cultivator. A master of his own style of martial arts, she quickly added. Both she and He Yao looked at Garen with extremely complicated expressions. The gap between them is so big. It is so big that it cannot be described as a natural mode. Black Yao is still only at the genius level, but Garen is already heading towards Overlord. Genius can only be used to describe the seeds of potential that have not yet grown. And Garen is no longer just a genius. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1126. Okay. I can only wish you success in advance. He Yao was silent for a while, barely able to speak. Believe in yourself. Garen smiled. The three of them casually took a walk by the river and talked about some past events and some plans for the future. Garen often just listened and listened very seriously. After all, the gap between him and the two of them was too big. The terrifying power of the time traveler was enough to completely transform him in a short period of time. There were many common topics, and Garen could know the general direction and answers just by speaking them out, but he was not impatient at all and just listened quietly to He Yao's words. Perhaps before long, such tranquility will no longer be possible. Garen could feel that the range of his twisted seed was quietly and rapidly expanding, and top masters were constantly being polluted and parasitized by him. Almost all of them were 9th level energy masters. There were 2 more people among them, becoming parasites of the twisted seed, breaking through to level 10. There are more than 10 people who have reached level 9, and many of them have broken through to the top of level 8. This is an extremely powerful force. I believe it will definitely bring surprises to Shinandi. Boom! Huge red fireworks continued to bloom over the entire Naga star, one after another, like a huge flower. Each petal was lifelike, and it seemed that the most delicate texture on it could be clearly seen. After the flower fireworks bloom, they naturally disperse and turn into countless red light points falling down. Garen sat quietly in the VIP seat on the edge of the finals, and entered the finals as a representative of the contestants. Behind him stood Bing Hao and Bing Zhang. Like him, there were all the middle-sized faction leaders around him, as well as large-scale faction leaders. Each of them was majestic and had a huge aura that was cultivated by having great power. Some of the waiters who came here to add food and snacks to everyone were a little suppressed and trembling. This is not suppression by a force field, but an impression and caution given by the big man himself. Compared with the weird images of the faction leaders around him, Garen's white robe and golden helmet were not surprising at all. The game started very early. When Garen brought his people over, there had already been 3 games, and now it was the 5th game. Under the pressure of 1,600 times the force field, the 2 players above could only barely exert the strength of ordinary energy masters, and they were still calculating and designing various traps with each other. Both of them were insidious and had various calculations. Calculation: there is no bloody scene in the fight, but it is far more sinister and vicious. Garen closed his eyes slightly. No faction leader around him took the initiative to talk to him. The Scarlet Snow Alliance secretly violated the rules of the Energy Mechanic Alliance. Before the 3 Holy Masters have completely determined this matter, any rash action without knowing the direction of the trend may bring disaster to adversely affect. So everyone simply stayed away to avoid any trouble. Garen and the other 3 were also happy and relaxed. The matches went on one after another, and Garen no longer had any interest in these ordinary level battles. His main attention was still focused on the direction of the Nebula headquarters in the distance. There, under the calculations of the major parasite masters, the twisted seeds are continuously sold to the so-called friends and allies masters at high prices, and the 9th level masters are constantly being cannibalized. Buzz. Garen's mind was suddenly shocked. Another level 10 was born. The terror of the twisted seed is evident. This is the true 4th level 10 among Garlean parasites. Basically, all those who can be parasitically contacted have been contacted. The rest are very vigilant and will not succeed. For a short time the voice of Two-Face was transmitted through the twisted seed. While Garen was looking at the field, he felt the dense distribution of powerful auras of various parasites inside Nagadeko city, almost spreading throughout the entire Nagakota capital, evenly dispersed. Everywhere. Is there any movement from the 3 Holy Masters? Especially the Demon King team. The devil he refers to is a cyborg at the Holy Lord level. The biochemical pool and mechanical platform at the Holy Lord level are far beyond what ordinary characters can compare with. The cyborg transformed with such technical conditions is far more powerful than ordinary people imagine. And it can also provide the Holy Master with a huge increase in power during resonance. This is also the reason why others must first cut off their Demon King transformation team when dealing with the Holy Master of Energy Mechanics. There is no movement. Everything is calm. It's just a bit weird that the Star Magnetic Holy Master here seems to be a little too quiet for our actions. I don't know if he doesn't care at all or is not aware of it and is indifferent, the two-faced man said with some fear in his tone. Where are the rest of them? Garen asked about the other 10th level Holy Masters. These newly promoted 10th level saints did not believe that the big crisis Garen said would be so serious, but after all, they still started to prepare for various situations with a prepared mind. Kind of preparation work. At the same time, we collect intelligence and investigate everywhere. After those people found out about their connection with you, they went around to investigate, and it seems that they made some discoveries. Now they may have gotten involved with each other secretly. The two-faced man smiled sinisterly. If they don't cooperate, they will be eaten. A little loss is not bad. Be careful, they will start taking action in the past 2 days, Garen said calmly. Don't worry. I have my own sense of discretion, the two-faced man said casually. Preliminary estimates indicate that the force used by the opponent should include 5 eternal movers, as well as the 9th-level masters of the North Pole, the forces directly under the command of the White King such as the North Pole, and the Red Spirit Hall Spirit Officer, a coalition of the Star King's forces. This is because some people are afraid that our death is not thorough enough. As long as you understand the situation, Garen's face was calm. Those who don't obey orders can't be helped by throwing them out as abandoned children. 4 people are enough. If you add the other 2 holy masters, I don't believe what else they can do. The two-faced man's voice gradually weakened and he slowly disconnected. The face beneath Garen's helmet was expressionless. Including Two-Face, although all parasites cannot harm him, they are gradually showing signs of disobeying their own commands. This was a possibility that he had anticipated beforehand. Although the twisted seed can greatly increase the strength of the parasite, due to its chaotic attributes, the parasite may not necessarily obey the mother's orders. Soon. The competition is one after another. This time it is the finals. Each and every one of them has shown their unshakable performance. Previously, the third division was relatively low-key. At this moment, the auras of the disciples who have not been relegated rise to the sky. Almost every other after a short while, 2 pillars of eternal light will appear, attracting attention. The elites of large sects are all untouchable, and there are also several people in medium-sized sects who belong to this level. The 3 Hungwo people had no choice but to admit defeat as soon as they entered. However, compared to the middle and lower rankings they had been in before, being able to enter the finals this time has already entered the middle and upper stages of the overall ranking. There are many schools of energy masters, large, medium and small. The total adds up to no less than a few hundred. In this case, being able to reach the middle or upper level is already a very large span. After the Hungwo trio left the stage, the entire Chixu sect completely became an audience, sitting quietly in their seats watching the finals. Black Glory, 9 Dragons, and White Lions, all charging forward in a victorious manner, unstoppable. It can be regarded as taking the spotlight on the field. A few rare geniuses also emerged among the rest of them, who were previously unknown, but this time they have the potential to soar into the sky. Various rare killing techniques emerge endlessly, some are collected by schools, some are created by disciples themselves, and there are also some ancient secret techniques excavated from ruins. Although weak, the effects of some secret techniques seem to be very useful even to masters like Garen, which made everyone look at them with great concentration and anticipation. Time passed by minute, and soon the day was over. Nothing happened all night, and Nagastar was unusually quiet. The game continued as usual the next day. The winner was quickly selected from all contestants. Zhulong didn't know what happened last night, he was seriously injured and fell unconscious. He Yao gave up and disappeared without a trace. Some people rumored that they saw He Yao and Zhulong fighting over a disagreement at night, and both of them were severely injured. This rumor is extremely true and spreads like no other. Garen sent messages several times to ask He Yao, but failed to contact him. An obvious atmosphere of conspiracy gradually spread. White Lion, a cruel young man with wild white hair, won the championship in this competition. Then the mayor came forward, and as one of the 3 holy masters, Backlight, began to award trophies to the White Lions. The magnetic field force to which the White Lion belongs celebrated vigorously, and the elders of its faction came to the stage to give representative speeches. The entire sect seemed to be beaming with joy. The master disciples of the magnetic field started preparing a huge banquet and were handing out invitations to all the famous masters. The sky sprinkled pink petals in celebration, and joyful music played. The White Lion came on stage with a smile on his face, ready to receive the energy instilled by the 3 holy masters. The three holy lords appeared one by one, from left to right, the star magnetic lord, the backlight holy lord, and the black knife holy lord. The faces of the three people were hidden in a distorted white light, and only the outline of their body postures could be seen. Everything is so logical. As powerful barriers continue to rise, Naga Star will begin to pull the most precious treasure of the three major cities, the Union. No one in the coalition knows where it is. This is a huge and tyrannical device created by the energy mechanics who gathered countless masters, elite talents, and energy. Its biggest function is to forcibly upgrade the ability of the energy mechanics to 8. Any level below level 8, including level 8, also has the terrifying effect of allowing the controller to instantly unite all forces of the same nature within a range. In other words, as long as this treasure is still in the hands of the three holy masters, once an external enemy invades, the alliance can instantly destroy the consciousness of the three holy masters and the countless 9-level, 8-level, non-falling, and other masters under their command. Force and energy combine to form an unparalleled powerful energy body. This energy body is extremely powerful even at the king level. Generally, king level ones may not be able to compare with it, and with the addition of the three king level kings who have personal friendships and connections with the three holy masters, the status of the able weapon master can be as stable as Mount Tai. And this treasure can only be actively pulled out by backlighting. So Ningguang is the old mayor of Naga Planet. Seeing the situation progressing so quickly, Garen had a feeling that the plan could not keep up with the changes. The pilots actually stopped following the normal sequence and directly asked Heiyao and 9 Dragons to withdraw from the race. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1127. In the direction of the three holy masters, a terrifying aura like the sun gradually emitted, and the coalition was about to arrive. It seems that we can't wait for the competition, and we are coming to the Federation so soon. Garen said a few words to Bing Hao Bing Crack behind him. The two understood and quietly stepped back and left. Soon Hungguo and others were slowly led away from the main arena. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a huge crimson light pillar fell out of thin air from the entire red sky. The metal-like light pillar fell hard to the ground, surrounding the White Lion and the three holy masters, making it almost impossible to see what was going on inside. All onlookers looked at the crimson light pillar in amazement. No matter how many times they saw it, they still felt a strong divine aura rushing towards them when they faced this light again. The sound of admiration was endless, and everyone around Garen was discussing the information of the consortium. Only Garen, his gaze under the helmet was already fixed on the inside of the light beam. The battle to exterminate the mechanic masters has finally begun. His index finger quietly lit up with a little red light, as if there was something on the fingertip that had not been released yet. Time passed slowly, and Garen's fingers slowly pressed down. The red light above had a faint tendency to turn black. Deep in the finite nebula, in the middle of a huge whirlpool of stars, a huge white palace seems to have stood here since ancient times. The stone pillars and patterns on it all contain ancient and long history. The traces of thousands of years have worn away the sharp contours of the palace and made it smooth and rounded. At this time, a figure covered in bloody flames appeared out of thin air on the long white stairs of the palace. The figure's body burned in the red firelight, surrounded by countless dense black gases. Each black gas had a twisted face of pain, with subtle screams and wailing. The King of White, the face of the figure was revealed. It was the face of a young woman full of demonic sharpness. The trajectory of fate cannot determine everything. The universe should be ruled by me, Vathanagartha. Her figure flashed and jumped on the stone steps for an instant, and every jump seemed to shake the entire palace and the surrounding space. The red light shone, and in an instant, the woman landed directly at the top of the stone steps, on the large white jade square outside the palace. A white figure was already waiting there. Without any nonsense, the red woman stretched her arms, her 5 fingers instantly turned into the sharpest terrifying weapons, and her whole body turned into dazzling red and rushed away. 2 rays of light, one red and one white, collided suddenly. Boom! Snapped. A drop of water dripped from the delicate red rose and hit the wooden table below. The evil shadow royal family finally takes action against the White King. The man in gold clothes at the table had a calm expression, as if he was saying the most ordinary thing. The White King of this generation is talented and ambitious, and has the ambition to unify the 2 major races. A strange human figure floated in the air behind the man in gold. The humanoid head was constantly twisting and changing. It was basically a black mist with no fixed shape. It depends on whether the evil Shadow King can succeed in the challenge. The index finger with the red light gently landed on the table. Do it. A subtle sound transmission was transmitted invisibly to a very far place through the distortion seed. Garen's white robe was slightly rippled by the wind. Suddenly, there was a slight shock in the red light, and something seemed to have happened inside. Almost at the same time, Garen suddenly jumped up from his position. Bang! The seed exploded into pieces and turned into countless fragments. Several terrifying and powerful aura force fields instantly concentrated on the location where Garen was previously. Garen's expression changed slightly under his helmet, and he quickly backed up. He held a black dimensional jumping ball in his hand and was about to smash it down. Suddenly, a white shadow appeared behind him. The huge force field immediately locked onto Garen, causing him to freeze up. This series of sudden changes made all the surrounding experts unable to respond. At this moment, when they reflected on it, they discovered that the fluctuations in the force field of the figure blocking Garen were as deep and terrifying as a black hole. Immediately, all the surrounding experts retreated and left. No one dared to stay at the scene. Anyone could see that these people were clearly targeting Garen. "What are you doing?" Garen's deep voice came out from under the golden helmet, appearing hollow and low. The white figure behind him laughed softly. "Geliac or Galen?" Garen turned around and looked at the man, only to see that he was taking off the white hood he was wearing. "You are." Garen's eyes suddenly froze under his helmet. Whoa, the hood was torn open, revealing a delicate and heroic woman's face, with short green hair blowing in the wind. "Do you still know me?" "No." The woman grinned, revealing her white teeth. Xylan. Garen did not expect that he would meet Xylan on such an occasion. Xylan. How could an ordinary inheritance-level person appear in an occasion of this level and still possess such powerful aura fluctuations? Impossible. But if not Xylan, then what? Suddenly the greatest possibility emerged from Garen's mind. Swish, swish, swish. 4 white shadows flickered in succession, with Galen as the center, and 4 white figures suddenly appeared around them. Each figure holds a crystal lamp in his hand, the wick burning with a fine milky white flame. The most powerful thing among the 4 figures is a small disc that slowly emerges from their chests. It is a milky white and equally pure disc. Sublimation discs. Oh my God, they are all top-notch sublimation discs. They are from the North Pole. A stunned distinguished guest couldn't help but stood up suddenly, with a look of horror on his face. Level 9. 4 Level 9 Masters. This is a premeditated assassination. Call the police, someone shouted loudly. The man's voice spread throughout the venue, and when he heard that he was a level 9 master, everyone on the venue suddenly started to get confused. Level 9. What is that concept? There are terrifying existences that are 2 levels higher than those who are not relegated. 4 such masters appear at once. This is a top master who can shake the foundation of the entire planet. And now 4 of them appear at once. The 3 holy masters must be notified. Wow! Suddenly, countless destructive lasers suddenly exploded in the crowd for unknown reasons. The venue was in chaos and uproar. The crowd got up frantically and tried to escape, but they were so crowded that many ordinary people were trampled to death. Only a small number of important people with escorts reluctantly separated from the crowd and flew outside. "No, you are not Xylan," suddenly Garen in the middle of the field said. "You are Shinandi." He looked around, and even he couldn't help but be frightened by the unabashedly powerful fluctuations of several level 9 people around him. What a big scene. How can you be so sure? The power of induction is indeed well deserved. Xylan was slightly startled. Sensing Garen's determined tone, his face changed and twisted. In an instant, he changed into countless faces, including old and young, male and female. Soon his face changed and turned into a cold and familiar face, Carthage. And his whole body temperament instantly transformed into the original cold flavor of Carthage. It seemed that every face he had had a unique personality to match. This feeling of instantaneous transformation of character traits and temperament gives people a sense of split personality. "I actually couldn't deceive you," Shinandi said coldly. "Just let it go. I don't want to kill you yet. Whether you can kill him or not is not up to you." Garen grinned, but no one could see his smile under his helmet. "Uh-huh." In an instant, another stream of white light fell from the sky, surrounding the 5 people of Shinandi from all directions. A series of powerful auras rose into the sky. Clear white discs appeared on each of these people. All of them are actually 9-level sublimation discs. "Want to fight? I'll accompany you." The two-faced man appeared in the white light, covered in golden armor, with a vague and uncertain aura. The 10th level aura did not emanate, but there was a faint smell of suppressing all 9 levels. Shinandi looked around. A useless struggle. What about adding us? Before he finished speaking, 4 more existences with black hole-like auras appeared silently around Shinandi and others. The leader was a tall woman with 4 arms. 4 level 10. Shinandi's dead eyes suddenly shrank. In the huge red light pillar. The Union is an exquisite red key, slowly falling from the sky above the light beam. Floating towards the backlight Holy Lord among the 3 Holy Lords. There was a faint humming sound all around, but this humming had some kind of strange melody, giving people a very sacred feeling. If the most powerful king-level master is present, you may be able to hear the voices of countless people hidden in it, whether they are expecting, praying, suppressing, or angry. The consciousness of countless able masters can unite at this moment to create a trace. A ray of light gathered on this delicate key. In the entire light pillar, apart from the 3 holy masters and the white lion, there were only prosecutors who witnessed the ceremony. These 3 people were the publicly elected representatives of all other sects except the 3 major sections. They were all 9. The top leaders are also 3 very old people, the youngest of whom has lived for more than 4,000 years. Witnessing the war and the rapid development of technology between humans and finites, the longest one even lived for more than 9,000 years. It is a living encyclopedia. The 3 of them all had old faces, long white beards braided into braids, and wore white robes with subtle blue fluorescent lines flashing on them. The Holy Lord Nigwang took the key to the Union and walked gently to the white lion. Looking at the white lion kneeling on one knee. "On behalf of all the masters, I would like to give you the highest honor." The Holy Lord Nigwang stretched out his hand and gently touched the white lion's head. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1128. Countless dazzling white lights suddenly exploded from the white lion. It was a terrifying sharp sword like countless golden spears, which spread out in all directions in an instant. One of them, carrying a secret filthy aura, burst into the chest of the backlight Holy Lord in front. "You," Backlight's surprised voice sounded, and a transparent vortex of air suddenly appeared in front of his body. The terrifying tearing force in it continued to interfere with the explosion of the golden sword. The 2 forces were stalemate with each other for a moment. Suddenly, A hand as white as jade silently pressed on Niguang's back. Puff. Backlight spit out blood. He looked at the star magnetic Holy Lord in disbelief. Star magnet. You. Boom. At this moment, the power of Star Magnet's palm exploded violently, sending the backlight flying towards the other side. Backlight, are you okay? Star Magnetic, do you know what you are doing? The Black Knife Holy Lord roared angrily. He rushed to catch Backlight, but his wrist stabbed forward fiercely, stabbing Backlight's vest. Dang! A crisp and harsh impact sounded suddenly. Two white shadows directly grabbed his stretched out wrist. Holy Lord Black Knife, I didn't expect you to betray me, the weapon master. Two old prosecutors appeared out of thin air beside Black Knife, one on the left and one on the right, clamping down on him. You guys, Holy Lord Niguang reacted instantly, staggered away and walked to a safe distance with difficulty, his face turned pale. Get together with the last censor. The situation suddenly became extremely strange. First, White Lion made a sneak attack, and then was blocked by Backlight, but the real secret move was the palm behind Xinguang. After injuring Backlight, Black Knife pretended to save others and tried to make up for it, but was blocked by two prosecutors. Block. A series of instant changes all happened in a blink of an eye. Puff. Backlight spit out a mouthful of blood again, and the blood showed a dark and foul smell. I didn't expect it, I really didn't expect it. I almost died at the hands of my companions. The white light on his face dispersed, revealing the fair face of a middle-aged man. This man is a very ordinary man. He looks just like a bunch of random people on the street. He doesn't have any surprising temperament or anything extraordinary. I didn't expect that either. The Black Knife Holy Lord sneered, staring at the two white-bearded old prosecutors in front of him. I didn't expect that there are three masters who are also at the perpetual motion level hidden here. Dean Putum, when did you break through the 10th level? His eyes turned to the oldest white-haired old man standing next to Backlight. The old man's eyebrows were lowered and his expression was calm. It's been 100 or 200 years, is this important? The old man Putum has been the president of the Central College of the three major cities for thousands of years. Almost everyone thought that he was restricted by the limit, and it was absolutely impossible for him to break through to the perpetual motion level, and could only stay at the peak of the 9th level forever. But he didn't expect that the old man would break through to level 10 without saying a word. How much do you know about our plan? Hideo asked coldly. I know everything you think you should know. The old man smiled and turned to look at the Star Magnetic Holy Master. Your Excellency, the Light of Justice, now that you are here, why are you still pretending to be someone else? Is it possible that the great General Finite, the Light of Justice, does not dare to show his true face to others? Light of Justice, Backlight's pupils narrowed, and he immediately looked at the Star Magnetic Holy Lord. Sure enough, the entire Star Magnetic Saint Lord melted away like mud, and was quickly reshaped into a brand new human form, which turned out to be the Light of Justice, Shinandi. However, at this time, Shinandi's eyes were no longer the withered pale white, but instead had a strange and alluring rainbow light, one red and one blue. Sure enough, it's you, the Lord of the Backlight was kept in the dark all this time. At this moment, he saw a series of changes. The true appearance of the Light of Justice also represented the pilot's real attack on the energy mechanic. This is a real and complete break. He was frightened and angry for a moment, remembering that the outside world must be in chaos at the moment. Since the pilots decided to take action and plotted against the three holy masters like this, the results outside would definitely be worse than here. At this moment the situation was finally completely clear. Shinandi has ever-changing incarnation abilities, and she disguises herself as the Star Magnetic Saint Lord in order to plot against the Backlight's palm. Now that they have succeeded, I didn't expect that there will be three more permanent masters. For a moment the two sides also reached a stalemate. but both sides understand that the energy mechanic is really over. If Shinandi cannot solve the problem, then more Shinandi will take action until the entire energy mechanic is completely eliminated. This is the general trend of the entire pilot world and is irreversible, because the mechanics occupy too many resources. Unexpected variable Putum, who conveyed the news here to you? Shinandi asked calmly. The strange shape of his left eye red and his right eye blue made his whole person's aura swell more and more. There are still many variables that you didn't expect. The old man lowered his eyebrows and said calmly. He reached out with one hand to hold the backlight. It's okay, backlighting. It's not bad, plus the other two, against the two of them, we are all three against two. Hey, it won't be much worse, Niguang replied firmly. In fact, that palm was far from what it looked like. Simple, but a highly toxic substance, metal, entered his body. At this moment, his whole body was poisoned, and the inside of his body was decaying and festering rapidly. Outside the light beam, Garen was surrounded by Shinandi, and there were 9 level masters lined up around him. In this moment of great change, top masters who were rarely seen in ordinary times kept showing up like cabbage. Without this level, one cannot even stand firmly. The innermost ones are Garen and Shinandi, followed by the White King's 4 level 9 masters. On the outside are Two-Face with a circle of level 9 masters to counter-attack, and the outermost are the 4 level 10 masters newly parasitized by Garen. The scene was completely deadlocked. No matter how powerful Shinandi was, she was just a clone. The real power was still put into the inside of the light pillar. At this moment, the light pillar separated the inner and outer sides. The situation was instantly reversed and became extremely fragile. Do you think I will retreat because of you eternal movers who have just advanced? Shinandi said calmly without changing her face. Where are your team members? I'm afraid they are still suppressing the Demon King's transformation team of the 3 Holy Masters, right? Garen looked indifferent. Boom. The words just fell. The entire ground shook, and circles of seismic waves came from very far away, as if there were huge forces colliding with each other in a very distant place. Look, the Demon King's transformation team is not that easy to deal with. A flash of understanding flashed across Garen's face. Shinandi's face darkened slightly. Who are you? Even G-Liasi shouldn't know so many inside stories. Who I am is not important, Garen whispered. What is important is what can I do. He looked at the various airships that were still escaping around him. The people from the Chixu faction had already left early with their own people. And Heiyao and others had already evacuated in advance. Shinandi, you said we would leave you here now. I wonder if the Star Emperor's people would be willing to help, Two-Face sneered. Star King, a hint of sarcasm flashed in Shinandi's eyes. Do you think Star King's people are here to help you? The two-faced man and the other 10th level people suddenly froze. The conflict between the pilot and the mechanic has always been the same. Now it is just a matter of being squeezed for too long and erupting in an instant. With such a big move now, the pilot will never give up easily. The Star King forces were probably their second backup move. It is even said that it is very likely that the entire energy mechanics resources may have been divided up by them. At this moment, neither side dares to act rashly, because at their level, once they take action, no one can contain the aftermath of the destruction. It may only take a few moves to cause the planet to collapse. Such a result is something neither the pilots who want to share the resources nor the mechanics themselves want to see. Garen is very aware of this weak balance, which is like the nuclear chain balance on the Earth. When everyone has the ability to destroy everything, no one dares to act too rashly. Once the situation becomes urgent, everyone will finish the game together. There's no drama left. Give up, your plan has failed, Garen said calmly. As long as one perpetual mover is not imprisoned, it is still easy to destroy the entire planet of mechanics. In the end, no one will get anything. There was a hint of compromise in his words. People cannot go against the general trend, but they can make changes on a small scale. Energy masters are immortal and conflicts cannot be reconciled. What Garen wants to do is to protect something within his own ability. That's all. The decline of the energy master is a choice of the times and cannot be reversed, so he can only choose to be wise and protect himself. Everyone's eyes were focused on Shinandi. His decision at this moment determined whether all the masters present would fight or make peace. Once a fight broke out, not many of the 9th level masters present could escape unscathed, and the aftermath of this battle with the entire Naga planet will definitely be completely destroyed without any accidents. The destruction of Naga Star is likely to trigger a space-time storm riot in this anti-space area. Don't forget, Naga planet is in a special environment. It is not in the positive universe, but in counter space, a time and space where everything is completely opposite to the positive universe. All around are violent and violent space-time storms, and everyone will be finished playing if they are not careful. There is no airflow, and the force fields of the experts present are intertwined. Even the tiniest air particles cannot pass through here. Everything except the force field is repelled. The 9-level 10,000-fold gravity is intertwined. All were concentrated on Shinandi and the others, while the powerful aura of the 10th level masters such as Two-Face and others were locked on Shinandi, and they did not dare to ignore them for a moment. As a king star, Shinandi has a strength that far exceeds all other eternal movers. If he really has no scruples in fighting, these people may not necessarily be his opponents. But now the situation is special. Make a decision, Shinandi. Garen's voice conveyed the aura of having everything under control. The situation was exactly as he expected. Whether it was the situation inside the light pillar or outside the light pillar, it was almost as he expected. The only thing that puzzles me is that you would actually concentrate your efforts on me, and actually target me as an attack target. This makes me a little confused. Garen asked the doubts in his heart. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1129. At this moment, the surrounding ground and sky have been completely cleared. As far as the eye can see around the city, everything is deserted, with a trace of deathly silence. Garen's voice slowly echoed and vibrated here, giving people an ethereal flavor. You are the only one in the Evil Shadow Royal family, Shinandi said lightly. Evil Shadow Royal family. As soon as these words came out, some of the other people present immediately became a little commotion. Garen is actually a member of the Evil Shadow Royal family. What is that concept? The Evil Shadow Royal family is the most noble race in the universe in history. Their people are gifted with extremely strong strength when they are born. They can enter the inheritance level when they reach adulthood and possess inheritance level lethality. They were once before humans and Fenites had grown up. This corner of the galaxy is ruled by them. That is the oldest and most powerful clan. With glorious glory and history. They are the rulers of the previous generation and symbols of the ancient nobility. The most important point is that the Evil Shadow Royal family is a powerful force on the side of the Fenites. In a hostile relationship with humans. Unfortunately, now I have confirmed that you are not Jaliusi at all, Shinandi whispered. You don't even know the news about your sister, the Evil Shadow King, challenging the White King. Someone said that you are the real Evil Shadow King. Do you believe it? What does it matter if he is from the Evil Shadow Royal family, Two-Face said indifferently, as long as you know that he is on our side now. Solve the current problem first, the four-armed woman also sneered. Shinandi, you are not your true body here at all. If you know what you are doing, get out of here. Otherwise, don't blame me, Torana, for not giving you face. Lingguang Holy Sun Twilona? The 10th level Holy Sun is indeed very troublesome, but it is just trouble. Shinandi stretched out her hand and opened it gently. In an instant, a ball of dazzling white light suddenly expanded from the palm of his hand and exploded in all directions. He actually dared to take action. Garen was shocked. He was just a clone, but he actually dared to face 5 people at level 10 and do it brazenly. Shinandi. Are you crazy? The two-faced man became frightened and angry. I'm not crazy, but it's a pity that you have overlooked one point. I don't need the resources of an energy mechanic. A smile appeared on Shinandi's face for the first time. Goodbye everyone. Laugh. The extremely dazzling white light halo expanded instantly, passing over everyone and flying violently in all directions. All the surrounding buildings were cut into 2 pieces by the passing white light, cut off like a blade, and the wound surface in the middle was like a mirror. Generally smooth. Everyone formed force fields to resist, but the more they resisted, the more a large amount of star core power was drawn out, causing the entire Naga star to shake violently. No, you can't use too much force, otherwise it will trigger a space-time storm and everyone will die, Torana yelled. Although she is a woman, her voice is rougher than that of a man and people will not take her seriously. Be female. If you don't resist, you will die faster, Two-Face said angrily. Lights of terrifying force fields soared into the sky. Massive star core power was like the tentacles of transparent jellyfish, constantly drilling out of the planet's surface and pouring into the bodies of all 9th level and 10th level masters present, helping them to naturally resist the white sharpness. Aura. But the more it was extracted, the more the entire Naga star shook. If someone looks at Naga star from outer space at this moment, he can see the surface of the entire planet. Circles of thin white ripples are centered on one place and spread fiercely. The ripples directly spread to the surface of all planets, forming huge white rings. In the middle of the ring, there are several intertwined colorful light pillars rising into the sky, shooting directly at the black space-time storm outside Naga star. Bang! A satellite orbiting the Naga star was directly shattered by this thick rainbow light beam. A large number of metal fragments were splashed, and a string of colorful light beams passed by, directly hitting the black space-time storm behind. Long. A huge dull sound came from the black storm. The space-time storm was like the black ink tide surrounding Naga star. It was rioting and rolling all the time. At this moment, it was hit by a rainbow light beam. It was like water dripping into boiling oil. The original fragile balance was broken instantly. Huge rumbling sounds continued to sound, and large black ink-like ink clouds poured in from the gap where it was hit, and countless ink clouds rushed towards Naga star crazily. Let's go, Garen let out a low roar and took the lead in rising into the sky. At this moment, the withering force field around him prevented him from being imprisoned. Instead, he swallowed up the attack power and soared into the sky. The remaining level 10 and level 9 parasite masters were left to fight against the people in the North Pole. Shinandi didn't care about him. The balance had been broken at this moment. The time and space storm was coming, and everyone would die here if they didn't retreat. All the masters present were very scheming. They did not need galleons to remind them and soared into the sky to find tools for long-distance jumping. Garen flew into the sky without paying any attention to the two-faced people waiting behind him. It was good to be able to remind them. Garen's body shot towards the joint's light beam like lightning. He calculated the time and just as he flew past, he felt the light beam weakening. With a slight thrust, the red light beam in front of him was torn apart like cloth, revealing a hole inside. There was also Shinandi inside. The Lord Backlight was standing with a white-haired old man, and the Lord Black Knife was confronting 2 10th level people. As soon as the crack was opened, a terrifying force of chi pressure turned into a transparent blade and shot out. Laugh. The blade flew in front of Garen and was swallowed up without any sound. It's you. Shinandi inside seemed to have no information from the outside, and was slightly confused when she saw Jia Long. Without saying a word, Garen reached out and grabbed the joint key. The key is now in Backlight's hand. Give me the union, he didn't hold back at all. Garen exploded with all his strength for the first time in a long time. Destroying punch. The violent force field twisted and vibrated around him, and it instantly increased to a terrifying force field of abnormal strength that directly suppressed the surrounding red light pillars and spread them out like explosions. There was a loud bang, and Galleon flew into the air toward backlight. It was as if the whole person had turned into a mountain range, pressing down with the shadow of a huge force field. Don't even think about it, Dean Putum next to Nigwang snorted and stretched out his hand to block Garen. But at this moment, the other two old prosecutors actually let go of their chi machine, allowing the Black Knife's chi machine to rush towards the seriously injured Nigwang. At the same time, they both started moving at the same time, and their chi machine moved directly towards Nigwang. Pressure over. Dean, give him the stuff. We must evacuate immediately. One of the old men quickly sent a message, Naga Star is about to be destroyed. This is the general trend. Parsam's expression remained unchanged, and he still reached out to grab Garen. Bang! Something suddenly exploded on him, and the explosion caused his strength to crumble and weaken rapidly. The force field of Galleons above his head suddenly fell down. Let's go, Garen sent a message to the two prosecutors. The reason why these two people were promoted to level 10 was because of his twisted seed layout, and the reason why the old Dean was able to appear here was also because of these two people. People summoned. They were the pawns that Garen had arranged long ago. The force field had no intention of harming the old Dean. It weakened quickly, wrapped around a key in the hand of the Lord of the Backlight, soared directly into the sky, and flew out from the opened light beam gap again. This time when the things were obtained, Garen did not miss them at all, everything was done. He Yao and Chi Shui's people also jumped away early. At this moment, he should have returned to Chixu Star, and the people of the entire sect began to migrate. We can no longer stay within the human race. As an able mechanic, since he cannot coexist peacefully with the pilot, he can only retreat for a while and wait for the future. To revitalize the Chixu sect, what is needed is not to rush in blindly and fight, but to preserve one's own strength in the crisis as much as possible. After the annihilation of the Energy Masters, it will be time for the White King to unify. Conquests and wars are everywhere, and eventually there will be general changes that will last for hundreds of years. What Galen has to do is to avoid the biggest limelight and recuperate. Strengthening the entire Scarlet Snow sect and creating a lasting hegemony is not just a matter of words. As long as there is the key to the alliance, the Scarlet Snow sect can quickly increase the strength of potential elite disciples. As long as they recuperate for a period of time, they will definitely be far superior when they reappear. Ordinary people imagine. At that time, it will be the time to truly achieve glory. Flying rapidly in the sky, Garen felt that the sky was getting darker and darker, and countless ink clouds gradually infected the atmosphere of the entire Naga planet. Many people on the ground below were completely unaware and looked up at the strange situation in the sky. When war breaks out, the most innocent people are these ordinary people. In high-level battles, they have no hope of escape and can only open their eyes and wait to die. Waiting for the space-time storm to rage down and completely wipe out everyone. Laugh. A black ball suddenly expanded in front of Garen. The strong atmosphere of the void battlefield filled the air. Garen turned back and took one last look at this chaotic planet. There were more and more black clouds in the sky. The ink from countless time and space storms crazily infected the surface of the planet, gradually breaking through the atmosphere and the Earth's magnetic field, and rushing down towards the Earth like a demon. This may be what the mythical annihilation looks like. Garen knew that other masters might have the means to escape, but they would be in real trouble if they didn't fall down. After all, he could not undo this annihilation, but the established purpose it has reached too. The two holy lords who originally died in the general trend are still alive. Originally, the mechanics would not have so many permanent movers, but now there are so many more, which can completely distract the mechanics. Attention gives the Red Snow sect a greater chance of survival. I took one last look at this bustling urban planet. Goodbye, Naga Star. He stepped into the black ball. After a flash of rainbow halo, Garen suddenly froze. His eyes suddenly opened up, and the first thing that caught his eye was not the desolate plain of the void battlefield, but a gorgeous pure white majestic palace. A young figure dressed in white was facing away from him, standing by the palace fence and looking out. "Welcome, Destiny Breaker." The boy in white turned around with a gentle and pure smile. White King Garen's pupils shrank instantly. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1130. Garen's skin tightened instantly, and an extremely strong sense of threat spewed out from the soul seed in his mind. How can it be? What happened? He should have shuttled directly back to the void battlefield. There were Chixia people waiting for him there. How could they instantly travel to the North Pole, the headquarters of the White King? He couldn't understand it. His mind was instantly in a mess, and he was caught off guard by this sudden and huge change. The White King. That is the terrifying existence that dominates most of this galaxy. It is the pinnacle of the king level. He is now just an ordinary level 10 permanent mover. If the other party wants to kill him, it is easier than crushing an ant. The gap between the two sides is so huge that there is no comparison at all. Garen tried hard to calm down, but his heart was still beating wildly uncontrollably. Based on all your experiences, all sudden changes and rises, combined with my judgment, 25% of your real name is Nono Siwa, 6.2% is Jaliasi, and 100% above 60, it is Galleons. The White King looks like a very ordinary young boy with a very pure smile. His skin is very delicate, like fine milk jelly, and his eyes are calm and seem to be smiling. It seems that you are smiling anytime and anywhere. I don't know if I'm right. Garen's heart suddenly tightened again. What do you want to do? He felt his voice was so hoarse for the first time. Even the King of White, who has not yet reached his peak, is far from being able to compete with him. You are not the only one who has seen destiny, the White King replied in a low voice with a pure smile. The entire White Palace is wrapped in an endless nebula whirlpool. A large number of meteorites are circling here at high speed. This place is like the eye of the storm. It is extremely violent outside, but there is only tranquility inside. It can be seen that this is the center of a huge meteorite vortex. I don't know where I am. Somewhere in space. Isolated by the endless powerful whirlpool, this place is like a paradise, and ordinary experts are not even qualified to enter. Everything in the world has a destiny, and your and my efforts are all included. Just like many years later, I will be killed by the Red King. Although he will become my only confidant in the future. But that is fate. The White King looking up at the stream of meteorites rotating in the sky, huge gray meteorites tumbled and flew overhead, carrying a huge and depressing feeling, as if they might hit the palace at any time. Understanding that the White King didn't seem to show any signs of taking action, Garen relaxed a little. You knew you were going to die in the future, why didn't you make arrangements in advance? That's destined. The White King showed a pure smile. My life is to write my destiny. Garen knew the ideal of the White King. He wanted to make the whole world no longer have fights and wars. And since he has seen the general trend, he will definitely understand that after the Red King kills him and unifies the human race, there will be an unprecedented peace and prosperity, and this peace is likely to last for a long, long time. Years. Then I am destroying destiny. What are you going to do with me? Garen asked calmly. Originally, I planned to kill you, the White King said softly, but when I saw you, I hesitated. Hesitation, Garen breathed a sigh of relief quietly. Why, no one wants to die if they can live. In fact, he doesn't agree with the White King's ideal at all. The universe is too big, and the Milky Way is too big. Finite plus humans can only occupy 2 major nebulae, and the total can only rule tens of thousands of life planets. 100,000 uninhabited planets. This data may seem huge, but in fact, compared to the scale of the hundreds of billions of stars and countless nebulae in the Milky Way, it is simply a small gap on the edge of a big pond. As for what has been observed in the universe, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies the size of the Milky Way, each with hundreds of billions of solar systems. Such a terrifying scale, not to mention those that have not yet been observed, and whether there are other galaxies outside the universe. There is a universe. A mere mecha-human civilization, even a king-level master who can destroy the planet, is just a drop in the ocean. But no matter what, he still had respect for the White King, a martyr who risked everything for his ideals. "Because you are not what I thought," the White King said softly. "I am a reasonable person. Your fate should let you die in the hands of Shinandi, then you should not be killed by me. Didn't you choose to fight?" "You will die if you fight," Garen asked in return. "Why are you accepting your fate now?" He tried hard to find a topic, but he still couldn't help but bring it up. After hearing his words, the White King shook his head. "Since the direction of destiny is what I want, why should I reverse it?" he answered with a smile. He no longer looked at Galleon, but walked along the palace square to the stone steps below. Walking down the stone steps step by step, Garen looked around. It was deserted and deserted. Only the ground seemed to have vague traces of the war, with dents and gaps everywhere. He glanced at the White King who was walking further and further in front of him, and chose to follow him. On the long stone steps of the White Palace, 2 small dots slowly went down one after another. After descending the stone stairs, the White King walked to a blood-colored stone tablet that was inserted diagonally into the ground. He stood still and stretched out his hand to gently touch the texture of the stone tablet, as if touching his lover's skin. Garen followed him and stopped, frowning at him, wondering what the White King was planning to do. "Do you know?" the White King suddenly said. Garen stared at him quietly, waiting for the next step. "The current fate was changed by me myself," the White King said peacefully. "What do you want to do by catching me?" Garen frowned and said in a deep voice. "Have you ever heard of a saying?" The White King turned around and smiled slightly. "One day in heaven and 1 year on earth." He raised his finger, and a tiny golden shimmer shone on his fingertips. As the glimmer of light dispersed, Garen realized that all the body under his legs had actually been frozen to the ground. What froze him was not ice, but an extremely clear dark golden crystal. Click. The dark golden crystals grew slowly, crawling up Garen's legs, like living creatures. Keep covering and spreading to more areas. They absorb the icy cold air naturally released by galleons themselves and can quickly strengthen themselves. Is this? Garen tried hard to move his legs, but the power of that crystal was extremely powerful. Golden void crystal. The most powerful imprisoning substance. This thought flashed through his mind, and Garen soon felt that his body was out of control. As he struggled faster and faster, the dark golden crystal spread more and more upwards, and soon covered his chest, directly constricting his throat. Cold. For so many years, Jia Long felt cold for the first time since he practiced the cold peacock technique. A bone-chilling coldness kept trying to penetrate deep into his skin and bones. Chirp. The shadow of the peacock struggled and whined behind Garen, letting out its final scream. Countless white ice crystal vines tried to spread behind Garen, forming a huge ice network to draw strength from. But the void here has nothing to draw on. "Do you know," the White King stretched out a finger again, "many people call me, absolute distortion." The dark golden shimmer flashes and disappears. Peng. All the ice crystal vines suddenly shattered and turned into countless white light spots floating down one after another. Garen's entire body was completely sealed in the dark golden crystal, unable to move. He could only stare at the White King with wide eyes. The terrifying force fields all over his body were constantly trying to condense and tangle, but they were directly scattered by an inexplicable twisting force. They condensed again and again, and were scattered again and again. Even the power of the soul seed was completely collapsed by this twisted force, and everything in Garen's body fell into chaos. Distortion. This is an absolute concept. As long as it is within this range, any biological material can only have one attribute, and that is distortion, the White King explained quietly. Without a concept of your own, no matter how hard you struggle, it's meaningless. He still had a pure smile. You are right here, quietly waiting for your destiny to come. Turning around, he slowly walked towards the top of the White Palace, his figure gradually drifted away, and slowly disappeared on the stone steps, no longer visible. Garen looked through the crystal in the direction where the White King left. It wasn't until the other party left completely that the twisted force weakened slightly. Is it twisted? He tried to restore the true form of the peacock skill in the cold region. However, the secret weapon of life cannot penetrate the crystal to absorb the void power from the outside world. There is a huge devouring power that directly sucks away the cold air from his body. With this devouring power, the large amount of cold energy accumulated in Garen's body was rapidly declining. Snapped. A blue thread trying to reach out of the palm exploded and broke. Trouble, Garen's heart sank. This devouring power is not strong, and is even weak compared to myself, but because of this additional twisting power, I can't condense my devouring power at all. At this moment, he has confirmed that the White King has no murderous intentions towards him, but because his power exceeds expectations and is likely to change the situation, he is imprisoned here and awaits the inevitable future. If the White King hadn't lied to me before, then this should be a place with an extreme gravitational force. This gravitational force can even distort and change the flow of time. The so-called day in the sky and a year on the earth. He originally had this idea. Garen instantly seemed to understand the White King's plan. At this moment, he looked outside through the crystal. The meteorites in the sky outside seemed to be rotating faster, and there was a trend of getting faster and faster. Suddenly, several streams of light fell from the sky, rushed directly up the white steps, and soon shot down, and then flew back into the meteorite flow outside. There were white and blue in the stream of light, and it seemed that there were human figures wrapped in it, but with Galen's eyesight, he couldn't see clearly. On the ground around the crystal, the stones gradually broke into pieces, becoming smaller and smaller, and finally turned into grains of sand, which condensed into soil under the moist water vapor. Bang! Some large and small meteor fragments fell from the sky, and the large fragments repeated the process and turned into soil. Gradually, Garen felt that the dirt around the crystal was getting higher and higher. It gradually went up from Crystal's feet, and soon reached his waist, almost submerging him halfway. Looking at all these changes, Garen finally came to some realization. Sure enough, even time was distorted by him. Through the crystal, he felt that only a few hours had passed, but the outside world seemed like a long, long time had passed. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1131. Time was passing. Garen could feel his strength weakening. It weakened rapidly from level 10, and soon reached level 9. The 9th level was quickly absorbed, falling directly to the 8th level, while the 8th level was still weakening rapidly. Is this his purpose? Garen calmly thought about the countermeasures. If it weren't for that twisted force interfering with my cohesion, how could this devouring power be comparable to mine? The 8th level is rapidly weakening, and time in the outside world flies by. Galleon finally fell back to level 7. Are we going to just quit like this? Garen became a little anxious. Seeing his strength declining rapidly, anyone would become more and more restless. He is not afraid of death, he is not willing to die. He was inexplicably imprisoned by the White King and could not accomplish anything. His powerful power was restrained before it could be fully exerted. This indescribable feeling of suffocation and depression made Garen feel more and more unwilling. Calm down. Only by being calm can we find a way. Garen forced himself to calm down and carefully looked for possible ways to break out. In a daze, Garen suddenly discovered that the dark golden crystal around him was slowly emitting a subtle hissing sound. I don't know when, wisps of dark golden air began to flow inside the crystal. As time went by, the airflow within the crystal began to gradually condense, forming a vague snake-like mist mass. Is this? Garen was stunned for a moment. The snake-like air mass twisted its body and became clearer, swimming slowly in the dark golden crystal. A trace of familiar yet unfamiliar aura spread from the snake and into Garen's soul seed ring, slowly causing tiny ripples. This is a void creature, Garen suddenly recalled the nature of this breath. Outside world. 150 years later. In a red desert, a white shadow walks slowly and firmly on the sand, 1 foot deeper and 1 foot shallower. The shadow held a long crutch in its hand and was barefoot, revealing the thin and black skin of the instep. A long and thin curved shadow constantly surrounded his feet and slowly swam in the sand. No matter how bright and hot the sun in the sky was, only the vague outline of this shadow could be seen. It was something like a rope. Energy masters have been extinct for more than 100 years. Why is the environment still so bad? Doesn't it mean that the root cause of environmental pollution has been solved? These are these warmongers who only deceive people. The figure raised his head, revealing a thin and dark old face. His cheeks were somewhat burned, leaving some white patches of skin, as if they were stained by flower balls. After complaining for a few words, he lowered his head and touched the black rope below. The rope was also very cooperative, and it obediently arched the area where his head was for him to stroke. What a good boy, come on, help your dad find where to find water next. The old man talked to the rope like he was coaxing a pet. The rope seemed to understand. It circled the ground, raised its head, and started shaking its head without knowing what it was doing. Suddenly, a black shadow in the sky flashed across the old man's head. Whoosh! Huh! The old man raised his head and looked over his head in confusion. Nothing. It seems that he was so thirsty that he had auditory hallucinations. He lowered his head again and stared at the snake-like dancing movements of the rope. Whoosh! Another black shadow flashed past, passing over his head like a big bird. The old man looked up suddenly, but still didn't see anything. Damn it, he cursed. Just lowered his head. Whoosh! Another dark shadow flashed by. Almost instantly, he looked up, but it was still a step too late. The empty sky seemed to be mocking him for his slow reaction. Shit! He cursed harshly and lowered his head. This time, he looked up instantly. There was nothing in the sky, it was all blue, and the vicious golden sun pierced people's eyes. Lower your head. Ha! He immediately looked up again, but nothing flashed past him. Am I really hallucinating? He touched his face, gave up on wasting time here, and lowered his head to look at the rope. Swish swish swish. In an instant, countless black shadows flashed past his head. The old man and the rope were both shocked. They sat down on the hot sand and quickly looked up, only to see countless black figures flying overhead like lightning like big birds. You can't run away from Climacea, a cold female voice came from the sky. I want to travel across the Milky Way, but no one can stop me, another arrogant man's voice echoed through the sky. You snatched the secret treasure of my Chi-Ling Hall and dared to come back to Mars. I don't know if you are arrogant or stupid, the woman's voice said sarcastically. Perhaps you thought that Buran would come to pick you up? Give up, the two great spiritual officers of the Chi-Ling Hall, have already gone to intercept and kill them in advance. Even the almighty daughter Burring cannot come back alive. What a joke. Do you still need someone to help me? Are you out of your mind or just eating shit? Don't you even consider the situation when you say something? The sky suddenly became clear, and all the black shadows stopped instantly. One of the shadows removed his hood, revealing the face of a handsome and carefree young man. A faint flow of transparent particles was vaguely ejected from behind him, and he achieved high-speed flight with the help of the particle flow. Opposite the man were 5 female figures, the leader of whom had brilliant blonde hair and blue eyes. He held a thick silver-white laser cannon in his hand, and his cold face was full of murderous intent. Stupid Martian, the man opened the map cannon with his mouth, and his arrogant expression made people want to beat him up. Put down your weapons and surrender. You are already surrounded by me. The man clasped his hands in a confident gesture. This suddenly shocked the 5 people on the opposite side as if they were facing a powerful enemy. They looked around and became alert, carefully paying attention to possible dangers around them. The scorching wind was still blowing wildly, and there was silence and nothing in the desert. The expression on the man's face seemed to be a little unbearable, his face twitched a few times, and he quickly glanced around in a covert manner. I still didn't find my comrades who had been ambushed in advance, and I suddenly felt terrible. Again, bluffing, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman scanned her surroundings and found no threats, so she immediately calmed down. When you say ambush, do you mean that trash underground? She moved her arm. Laugh. A thick white laser suddenly shot downwards, shooting directly towards the skinny old man who was so frightened that he collapsed on the ground. With such a laser cannon's caliber, a single shot is enough to melt several meters of alloy steel plates in a matter of seconds. How could an ordinary desert traveler withstand such a large-scale cutting-edge weapon? The old man only felt a white light above his head, and in an instant, a fierce barbecue-like heat poured down from head to toe. Laugh. The long-drawn laser sound came slowly at this time. Kill innocent people indiscriminately, die, suddenly, a cold female voice sounded in the man's ear. The unparalleled sword. The expected scorching heat did not come, but was replaced by an icy chill that penetrated my heart. A beautiful woman dressed in white stood in front of the man, holding a sword in one hand, completely blocking the laser. Countless white light spots were continuously cut and broken, and actually turned into solid ice cubes and flew to the ground around her. Peacock, the woman's voice was equally cold and contained murderous intent. Tisk tisk tisk. 4 lightning-cutting sounds in a row. The figure of the woman with her ponytail had jumped high and landed on another hot sand. You, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in the sky stared at the figure of the woman on the ground while trembling. The almighty daughter. The 2 spiritual officers are actually incompetent. Puff. The 4 figures behind her instantly opened a bloody hole in their throats, and fell to the ground like flying black butterflies, splashing fine waves of sand. Lingguan, the ponytailed woman raised her cold and pretty face, spread her hands, and there were 2 exquisite red and blood-stained rings in her palms. Is this what you're talking about? Without any hesitation, the blonde woman turned around and ran away, her figure turning into a black shadow and flying towards the distance like lightning. Unparalleled sword. The ponytailed woman raised her thin sword again. Death. A ray of silver-white sword light twisted and instantly caught up with the opponent. It penetrated through the blonde woman's vest without any hindrance, broke open and shot out from the chest, bringing out a large rain of blood. Then it quickly flew back into the ponytail woman's sword. I'm getting worse and worse than you. Clint fell next to the woman with a sore expression on his face. Let's go. The ponytailed woman ignored him, sheathed her sword and prepared to leave. Clint looked at her back, feeling helpless. You've been like this since the death of eldest brother. After so many years, can't you let go? The energy masters have been extinct for more than 100 years. We will definitely avenge eldest brother, but you are like this. I'm different from you. The ponytail woman stopped and did not turn around. You do not understand. Burin. Clint saw that the other party's original black hair was already mixed with some white. As a powerful pilot integrated into his own mecha, gray hair actually appeared at just over 100 years old. One can imagine how painful the other party was. Perhaps only she herself knows how she has spent these past 100 years. Is it really worth sacrificing lifespan for strength? I think it's worth it. Burin walked towards the distance without looking back. The family was gone, and there was still a brother to look forward to. Now that the brother was gone, there was no one to rely on. When he learned the news, Burin was almost driven crazy by the shock. When the Chixu sect broke out in terrifying strength, when the brother changed his name to Garen and led Chixu to intervene at the highest level, when Chixu's people fled with them. When he finally learned the bad news and Chixu held a mourning party, all the pillars of Burin collapsed instantly. In this world, her last family members also died, killed in the White King's conspiracy. After waking up, all that was left in her heart was endless hatred, hatred for the White King. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1132. Nebula Junction, Public Galaxy are barren. In the dim and gray universe, everything is gray except for the only star in the public galaxy, Evalier, which still emits a huge soft golden halo. Aha! Suddenly, a ring of metal sheets appeared in the void. Each metal sheet was several kilometers long, like sharp bone spurs. They were arranged together and rotated continuously, forming a huge ring of dozens of kilometers. Silently, a transparent distortion emerged in the middle of the ring. Hiss! A disc-shaped gray-black spaceship slowly penetrated from the middle. The spaceship was like a black mushroom, with a large number of dense wrinkles on its surface. At the top stood a metal statue of an old man in a robe. At this moment, the statue's eyes were shining with obvious white light, which seemed to illuminate the surrounding environment one by one like a searchlight. On the side of the spacecraft, in a scallop-shaped window among the numerous folds, two bald men and women can be seen standing side by side, quietly looking at the outside world. Both of them looked a little calm and solemn through the window. Their heads were bare, with several silver metal pieces implanted in them, making them look as if they were full of cybernetic robots. "Is there any news from Finite?" When the bald man asked in a low voice while looking out the window. "What news do you want?" When, a bald woman, crossed her arms in front of her chest. A silver metal antenna extended from the back of her head, and blue arc ripples spread from the bottom of the antenna to the top. It looked like her body was constantly generating arcs and transmitting them through the antenna. The General Military Headquarters has sent out 2 legions, and only 1 legion is left to guard the entire human race. Prince Thunderbird on Finite's side will never let go of this opportunity easily. In the entire eastern battlefield, once an accident occurs, the entire human race may lose power. "You must be more careful," the man whispered. "Even the Thunderbirds can't spare their strength to deal with this side, right? There are only 3 people from the 12 Golden Sunland Prince staying at the headquarters. Are they not afraid of us counter-attacking?" Iwen asked in confusion. "Of course I'm afraid, but do you think they will definitely come and attack?" the man asked. "This is unlikely." Iwen shook his head. The man suddenly laughed. "Look, you don't think so? If they do the opposite, it will be very dangerous." "But we have a sky fortress," Iwen argued, "being able to combine our strength into one, they can't break it casually even if they think about it." The man shook his head. "How many people will not be demoted? Individual strength is not too important now, unless the king level takes action personally. If I were Shinandi, I would definitely come here as soon as possible to grasp the key loopholes at any time. As long as once caught, if there is a little gap, then although we are only having a small conflict on the edge, the impact on the overall situation will be extremely serious." He then looked at the outside world again. "Okay, When we reach the destination, call Bai Dong and the others. It's time to go out for inspection. Move quickly and make a quick decision. We will return immediately after positioning the jump. Understood. I Wen saluted, turned around and left quickly. Not long after, several black triangular metal spaceships suddenly flew out of the mushroom-shaped gray-black fortress, flying straight towards Avalier, the only star in the public galaxy. It has been more than 100 years since the Masters of Energy became extinct. It's not that there are completely no energy weapon masters in the world, but because most of the energy weapon masters are too low in level and their inheritance is cut off, they have long lost their original powerful power and have turned into purely auxiliary logistics units. The school of non-mechanics only exists in legends and is called Ancient Nunchi. To distinguish the current profession of energy mechanic, more than 100 years is only a short time for experts, but for ordinary people, it is equivalent to more than half a lifetime. The legend of the Mechanics soon faded away as time went by. After the White King defeated the evil Shadow King and exterminated the evil Shadow royal family, it only took a few years to unify the entire finite, thus pointing the finger at the opposing humans. The real confrontation between the home planet and the finites finally broke out. Among the 9 Star King forces, the most powerful King Thousand Pillars led the remaining 8 human kings to formally form a strategic alliance to jointly fight against the ambition of King Finite Bai. For more than 100 years, the 2 top kings, King Kinzu and Mo Luo Mo Guang, led the 3 legions and collided head-on with Finite's 12 gold medal Prince Lan, causing casualties on both sides. The White King personally took action several times, but was resisted by the Star King using the Sky Fortress, a unique consciousness combination device. This technology was originally invented and learned from the information in the hands of the energy mechanic. Human beings who originate from their home planet have a common consciousness characteristic, which is like genes. There are always many things in common within the gene chain. But Finite is different. They are a unified nation in the universe, composed of hundreds of different nations in the universe. The ingredients are complex, and even if they get this technology, they cannot use it. In this way, humans have a joint device like the Sky Fortress, while the Finite people are much stronger overall. After the high-level forces of both sides faced off in the counter space for a while, no one could do anything to the other, and could only temporarily cease their activities. After the strategic level offense and defense have come to a standstill, the key point lies in the invisible war of boiling frogs in warm water. The war, to a certain extent, is about resources and the economy, so the key conflict between the 2 communities, the conflict over resources, has resurfaced. Become the point of confrontation for a new round of war. But now, the always shrinking human legion fleet is taking the initiative because it has discovered a new gaseous mineral planet. Once this planet is occupied, humanity's increasingly embarrassing energy crisis will be temporarily alleviated. Scientists also named the planet Cameron, the Lord of Hope. And now, this mushroom-like spacecraft is going to the Cameron star in the public galaxy. The news has not spread yet, and the Finite people still don't know that this planet is a rare gaseous mineral planet, and the entire planet is filled with various mineral dust and gases that can be used. This is also the key opportunity for the human race. So the 2 legions located a similar planet and pretended to set out to occupy it, but the real team to occupy the planet secretly set out. The mushroom spaceship moved forward slowly, and the several small insect-like spaceships it released flew silently towards the public galaxy. A huge Earth-yellow planet there is slowly rotating, with a huge yellow star ring suspended around its waist. It's right here. Found it? Ha ha ha, one of the small airships heard an ecstatic voice, that's it? Cameron. Ha 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 ha, the wild laughter continued. Locate immediately and prepare to extract samples for brief analysis. The collection knife is ready, let's start. The 2 small spaceships quickly flew towards the Earth-yellow planet. They jumped midway and covered a large distance in an instant. They appeared directly at the edge of the star ring. They stretched out their mechanical arms and began to collect samples. At the same time, mechanical bees were densely distributed and flew in all directions, detecting the surrounding movements at any time. The Earth-yellow planet rotates slowly, as if it has been rotating slowly like this for countless years. Its huge size is comparable to that of stars not far away. It is completely unknown why it is bound by the gravity of the star to revolve. As the robotic arm began collecting, an inexplicable aura gradually filled the planet Cameron. Above the planet, the endless Earth-yellow storm raged and roared all over the sky, and a little bit of black was like the fruit hanging in the storm. It was extremely black and suspended in the void. Puff. Suddenly, a black spot suddenly exploded and turned into a small black hole, which began to swallow up the surrounding cocky airflow. A beetle with compound eyes quickly crawled out of the black hole. It raised its head and raised its ferocious mouthparts, and looked at the sky. It seemed to be facing the direction of the collection spacecraft. Hiss. Tiny cries began to carry through the storm. A huge change that no one expected seemed to have finally been triggered for some unknown reason. The central palace of the White King. Garen couldn't remember how much time had passed. Since he was imprisoned in the crystal, everything in the outside world has become extremely fast, but as time goes by, the twisted power finally begins to weaken. And the distorted time finally began to return to normal again. Garen's concept of time has also been reversed. But the power of distortion no longer distorts time, and the imprisonment of his body is still firm, and there is no possibility of struggling at all. His current power has been devoured by imprisonment and has been reduced to level 7 without falling. This seems to be a limit point, a point set by the White King. Jia Long knew that he hoped that he would eventually die at the hands of Shi Nandi in a way that would bear the weight of history. This time will soon come. Everything is just waiting for the Battle of Ice Valley to break out. That was when he officially fell. Through the dark golden crystal, Garen could vaguely see that a lot of dust and sand had accumulated in the outside world, almost completely burying his void crystal. There was only a faint gleam of light coming from the top of the head. Snake. Come here, a message came out from Garen's heart. Soon, a small dark golden snake slowly condensed out of the crystal. It twisted its body and slowly crawled in front of Garen. The imprisoned crystal seemed to have no effect on it. The hissing snake made a subtle hissing sound, as if asking what it was doing. How much dark energy has been absorbed? Garen asked bluntly. A breath of a void creature, a peacock from the cold realm, spread out from his body and stirred in the crystal. The little snake immediately felt more intimate and happily turned around in the breath. It opened its mouth generously and spat out. Hiss. Large strands of ink-like dark energy quickly permeated the entire crystal. Only part of it came into contact with Garen and was absorbed by his passive body-devouring ability. The other part was wasted and dispersed throughout the entire crystal, causing the crystal to more solid and terrifying. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1133. Garen seemed to have become accustomed to this kind of life. After absorbing and devouring the dark energy, he once again transformed it into pure cold energy and released it into substantial white airflow. The little snake immediately cheered and rushed over with a hiss, absorbing the released white cold energy in a few strokes. Although the cold energy that has been filtered and refined by Galleons is not the most suitable type of energy for the little snake, compared to the dark energy with many impurities, this highly condensed and pure energy is more suitable for its appetite and more suitable. Its growth. In its view, the big, immovable figure inside the crystal is its mother and its friend. This dependence started a long time ago. Over 100 years, it has only been more than 3 months here in Galan, but it has been more than 2 months that one person and one snake have been getting along like this. Want more? Garen looked at the little snake's unsatisfied look in amusement, then absorbed more dark energy. More than 70% of the universe is dark energy. It is endless. Only you can absorb it. Collection condensed into substance. Even though he knew that this guy couldn't understand, Garen still transmitted the message habitually. When a person is bored, he will always find some way to occupy his time. The cold energy he released was actually only 10% of the total amount, but even this was enough to make the little snake enjoy it. Watching the little snake slowly decompose and disappear into the crystal, Garen felt peaceful in his heart. King of White, maybe you didn't expect that there are actually eggs of void creatures in the dark gold crystal of the void. And they are not ordinary eggs, but the shadow dragon, a giant void beast that ranks even above the cold hell peacock mother. Egg. Even the juvenile shadow dragons hatched after reaching the standard of hatching after devouring a large amount of Galleon's body power, and they were born with the ability to absorb dark energy. As a tyrannical existence that ranks third on the list of ancient Yinduo void creatures. The shadow dragon is also known as the Yin spirit dragon, the night dragon, the lord of the night, and other names. Although this shadow dragon is still very small, if Garen's power had not hatched it, it might have died in the crystal and turned into a fossil after thousands of years. Even if it is hatched now, this little dragon may encounter many attacks and dangers from terrifying creatures as it grows. The current dragon has almost no abilities, but it is a vital help to Garen. That is, it can provide Galen with a little bit of rare but extremely precious external energy. All the power and energy in Garen's body was imprisoned by the power of distortion and could not be used, and the crystal sealed his way of swallowing and absorbing energy from the outside world. Only by relying on this little shadow dragon in its infancy, he continued to encourage it to go out and absorb dark energy in exchange. In exchange for this, he got a trace of the extremely thin cold energy in his body. The cold energy released can quickly stimulate the growth of the shadow dragon, allowing it to absorb more and more dark energy. Call. Garen slowly exhaled, and the pure cold energy turned into wisps of white mist, moving hard and slowly in the crystal. By observing the shadow dragon's actions, Garen had vaguely understood the basic principle of how this crystal imprisoned him. Without the help of the little snake, he pushed the cold energy to move within the crystal by himself. This was the rare achievement he had achieved for so long. What is the essence of imprisonment? Garen fell into thinking. During these times, he kept comprehending and observing the activities of the shadow dragon, trying to understand the most critical level between the 10th level and the king level. That is the concept of essence. This is not so easy to grasp. But as the power of distortion distorts time, it seems that Garen also feels that his thinking speed has become extremely fast and terrifying. This seems to be an anomaly caused by the acceleration of time. Almost every idea he has can get a quick answer. After all, each second of is equivalent to a long period of time in the outside world. This kind of thinking speed is also normal. The most important thing is that the essence of void crystal is actually the crystal nucleus of void creatures, and the hardest dark gold crystal is actually the most powerful crystal nucleus of void creatures. And just in time, Garen's identity that he always had came in handy at this time. Void Stalker. He is the inheritor of the ancient Yinduo civilization and a powerful hunter whose mission is to hunt down void creatures. The biggest advantage of this identity is that you can use the void crystal core that others cannot use and turn it into a powerful driving force for your own thinking, analysis and deduction. Garen used void crystal cores to deduce martial arts in the vampire world. Now his whole body is wrapped in a dark golden void crystal core. As the core of the strongest void creature, it is even possible that it is the third-ranked shadow dragon. Of crystal nuclei, for Galleon, this almost represents endless analysis consumption resources. At this moment, there is the best demonstrator of the concept, the shadow dragon. It is born with the concept of imprisonment. This crystal is actually its best protective shell. It is equivalent to an egg shell. It is extremely hard and can imprison almost everything in the world. There is also the best reserve energy bank for consumption, void crystal. Coupled with the help of the accelerated time of the power of distortion, Garen, in addition to his severe decline in strength, really received a unique and excellent retreat environment. If you want to escape from imprisonment, you must first understand the essence of it. Garen's brain rotates slowly, and the 3 soul seeds are rotating all the time, releasing a trace of soul seed power. Although it cannot achieve the maximum effect due to the power of distortion, but he is no longer as completely immobile as before. Slowly closing his eyes, Garen gradually immersed himself in thinking. Possible analyses were gradually screened out. The terrifying and complicated calculations and reasoning were denied one by one, and new possibilities were established again. New models are constantly being created and collapsed. At this moment, Garen's calculation power reached an extremely terrifying level. Suddenly an idea rolled out of his mind. My cold energy has the most terrifying pure chill of the cold peacock, but the shadow dragon is not afraid at all, and even enjoys it. Is it just because the shadow dragon ranks above the cold peacock mother? New possibilities came to mind again. If huge distortions, the most extreme distortion fluctuations, can accelerate and change the flow rate of time, then complete stillness, making all forces completely still, can it produce absolute confinement? Then on the other hand, can absolute confinement produce absolute stillness? Including the stillness of everything in time and space, Galen's heart skipped a beat. After deducing and comprehending for so long, he gained very little, but the counter thought that jumped out at this moment gave him a vague idea. My cold energy can reduce the movement of matter and bring it infinitely close to stillness, but it cannot truly freeze the force field. Matter is condensed together because of the force field. Only when the forces between atoms are balanced will they form a material structure. If I could freeze the force field, then matter will not exist because of the force field, but will exist because it is frozen by me. This is no longer a category that temperature can affect. Garen kept having new thoughts and ideas in his mind. Looking at the extremely solid dark crystal around him, he suddenly had an extremely crazy and bold idea. For me, this crystal plays 2 roles at the same time. First, the essence of its void crystal core accelerates the speed of my thinking analysis. Second, its conceptual essence imprisons all my activities. But the confinement of stocks has not reached the point of affecting the soul's thinking. From this point of view, his concept of confinement is weaker than the concept of accelerated analysis. Perhaps it can be understood that his confinement cannot restrain me. As a hunter in the void, I was captured by the mother river. The acceleration ability given to the identity. If nothing else, this should be a conceptual distinction between superior and inferior. The void hunter essentially uses the accelerated thinking of the crystal core, which is higher in level than the imprisonment power of the shadow dragon. Interesting. This seems a bit like the distinction between power in mythology. If I crazily strengthen this confinement crystal and let it reach the peak of confinement, will it really completely confine my consciousness? A crazy thought ignited in Garen's heart. Will there be a new natural evolutionary balance based on the level of the concept, or will it completely elevate the low-level concepts to a higher level? A brand new model vaguely emerged from Garen's mind. The possibility of this model is based on speculation based on conditions unique to him. If the model fails, he may die completely, and even the soul seed cannot be left behind, and he will completely die and collapse. But if it succeeds, then how can we push the crystal to the height where everything can be imprisoned? Garen turned to think about this problem. There is only one answer. Shadow Dragon. Even if the Shadow Dragon is a young dragon, it has a special ability to travel between the shadow world and the normal world. Shadow energy is actually the so-called dark energy, which is the largest and most extensive force in the universe. Therefore, the dark world is a larger and more extensive place than the normal world. What maintains this shuttle ability is a connection core in the body of the shadow dragon itself. This core connects the dark world and the normal material world. As a shadow dragon, his most terrifying ability is that whether it is a larvae or a mature body, the ability they all have comes from this core. That is self-destruction. This is not a simple self-destruction, but a complete explosion of the fragile balance in the connection core, and a complete opening of the dark world's door to the material world. Garen had seen in the inherited knowledge and memory of the ancient Yinduo civilization that countless terrifying creatures from the dark world swarmed into the material world, and massive amounts of terrifying dark energy rushed into the entire material universe. This was a brief connection between the worlds of two different levels. The dark world is much larger than the material world. The creatures in it do not need light. Their bodies are made of dark matter. Seeing light is like water meeting fire, or a cat seeing a mouse. It's more like what humans see that scares them, the kind of scary things that can destroy everything about them, including their lives. Under such fear, they can also find that the other party is much weaker than themselves, so the final result is that they crazily want to eliminate the light forever. The self-destruction of the shadow dragon should temporarily open the door to the dark world, allowing the energy of the entire dark world to strengthen this crystal core as quickly as possible. Push it to the highest point. This crystal core should have originally been the shadow of a mature body. It's what the dragon left behind. It should be no problem to get back to the top. Once the plan is set, the only thing left is to implement it. There was a slight murderous intent in Garen's eyes. "Snake, come out." He spoke softly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1134. The dark golden snake slowly swam out and reassembled its tiny body in the crystal. Although it is still a juvenile shadow dragon, it already has some fine black scales, and a series of slender dragon whiskers have grown on its back. The black dragon whiskers are like manes, slowly undulating in the crystal. At this moment, the shadow young dragon has a faint shadow of a dragon, and is no longer in the form of an ordinary snake. "Come to me." Garen's body exuded a subtle sense of kindness and coldness, and the cold energy he had absorbed was emitted by him again, covering the surface of his body. The young dragon was indeed attracted, and swam over quickly, its slender body twisting in a circle like a snake, its head gently and affectionately leaning on Garen, and stretched out its tongue to lick the back of Garen's hand. Hiss! It began to carefully devour the cold energy, as if eating the finest delicacies. Garen watched it tenderly, constantly emitting the cold energy he had accumulated, allowing it to continue to devour it. In addition to being able to hide in the shadows and swim, the young shadow dragon's actual lethality is not as good as a poisonous snake. Its only harm is to self-destruct the two world nodes in its body. It is the core that connects the dark world. But now, its most dangerous life-saving means has become a real fatal threat. Invisible cold energy continues to spread into the body of the shadow young dragon. A faint red light gradually appeared in Garen's eyes. A red halo like blood shone on the young dragon, and an extreme coldness was slowly released, attacking the young dragon. The red light turned into a big hand, gently caressing the young dragon. The touch was extremely soft and smooth, without any malice. The baby dragon also made a soft cry of comfort, almost closing its eyes in comfort. Suddenly, Garen suddenly increased his power, and the force formed by the consciousness force field instantly stuck the young dragon, making it impossible for it to escape from his control. Hiss! The shadow dragon was pinched by the huge force field, struggled desperately, and screamed crazily. But its weak strength can't resist the galleons, who still have the strength to not fall down. Even if the galleons are just a little bit of power accumulated during this period, they are enough to kill small things that have not hidden in the shadows. The young dragon neighed and struggled, its eyes became more and more bulging and protruding. Its dark and slender body was pinched out of thin air by the force field, getting tighter and stronger. Countless black smoke emitted from it, heading towards instinctively spread around. Garen's eyes radiated not only a dazzling red light, but also a cold murderous intent. He watched quietly as the young dragon struggled and begged. Bang! The entire young dragon finally couldn't bear it any longer and collapsed and exploded, turning into a ball of dark smoke that floated in the crystal in front of Garen. After tearing it apart, a pale eye suddenly opened in the black smoke, and the eyeball moved nervously up and down from left to right. Garen stared at his eyes calmly, with a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. "Come on. All shadows. I need your help," he murmured under his breath. The white eyeball slowly arched forward, and it was clearly on the head of a jet-black bird-shaped creature. As soon as this black bird with white eyeballs on its head flew out of the black smoke, the first thing it saw was Galleon. The red light radiates from the eyes. Ga. The shadow black bird suddenly let out a shrill and terrifying cry, which seemed to be fearful and roaring. It rushed towards Garen's eyes without thinking about its own safety, as if it was trying its best to destroy everything that was emitting red light. But as soon as it escaped from the black mist, it was instantly imprisoned by the power of the crystal. This crystal is the strongest protective shell used by the larvae of the shadow dragon to protect itself in its infancy. It is also the crystal core of a mature shadow dragon that once absorbed it. The speed and ability of dark energy are simply not something that a small shadow bird can resist. Almost the moment it jumped out, the black bird exploded and turned into countless black mist that was absorbed by the crystal. Boom! Almost at the same time as the black bird exploded, a large black torrent violently surged out of the black mist, rushing towards Garen. It seemed to destroy the only source of red light in the crystal, Garen's eyes. Garen opened his mouth suddenly and allowed a huge black torrent to rush into his mouth. The ferocious inertial impact of the huge torrent made his whole body tremble slightly. There are countless more escaping parts around the torrent, which are rapidly absorbed by the crystal. Come on, come on. More. Ha ha ha, Garen felt more and more energy that he had not seen for a long time in his body. The dark energy was continuously turned into cold energy by the devouring essence of the cold peacock, filling it crazily. Touching his body that has been dry for too long. An unprecedented joy and satisfaction kept flooding into my heart like a tide. His eyes widened, and countless cold energy slowly emitted. But only a small part was absorbed by him, and more was absorbed by the crystal. As time goes by, the black torrent becomes thicker and more violent, and occasionally you can see a lot of weird shadowy things like black insect creatures mixed into it. These black impurities rushed into Galen, and a large amount of various toxins rushed into Galen's mouth with the impact. He didn't refuse anyone who came, and devoured it crazily. The power in his body rose rapidly, like a dry sponge, quickly absorbing all the water. The purity of this dark energy is second only to the energy tide he absorbed. Although it is violent, it does not cause any harm to him who has turned into a peacock in the cold world. Countless dark energy was continuously converted into cold energy and absorbed by him, and the progress of the long-lost last level of the cold region peacock skill began to increase again. Garen watched the attribute changes in his field of vision. The cold peacock mother is growing. The Legion level Dream Dimension ability of the three soul species activates the evolution towards the ultimate body of the cold peacock, the cold hell peacock mother, but the evolution requires unimaginable energy growth progress 7%. Acquire ability talent, Peacockization. Obtain the ability talent, Devouring Force Field 5. Obtain the ability talent, Seed of Distortion 5. Obtain the ability talent, Chaotic Cold Realm 5. The endless energy of the dark world gave Garen the confidence to completely devour it. He almost went crazy and allowed the black torrent to rush into his mouth, swallowing it in big mouthfuls. It was poured almost directly into the stomach, where it was quickly devoured and converted into cold energy, nourishing the growth and evolution of the cold hell peacock mother. The crystal is getting stronger and stronger, and countless shadow energy rushes into it. it is continuously strengthening its own solidity in an extremely rapid way. This kind of strengthening continues to rise, and the restraining force becomes stronger and stronger. The black torrent that keeps gushing out, the dark gold crystal that becomes stronger and stronger, and the vague humanoid figure with red eyes inside the crystal are all hidden deep underground somewhere in the White King's palace, and no one has discovered it. Time passed slowly and unknowingly, the black mist fluctuated more and more, and it seemed that the spewing speed was increasing as time went by. Garen has gradually forgotten the passage of time. He can only devour and devour crazily. The surrounding crystals are also absorbing dark energy crazily, and the power of confinement is getting stronger and stronger. The huge impact of dark energy resists the power of imprisonment, but is continuously absorbed by the imprisonment crystal, turning into the purest essential power, transforming the texture of the crystal itself. This is a contradictory combination. The crystal absorbs dark energy to strengthen the power of confinement. As the power of confinement continues to change, it gradually begins to naturally block the influx of dark energy, making itself more and more vulnerable to the impact of dark energy. Small, less and less. When the confinement power of the crystal reaches a certain level, the dark energy cannot rush into the crystal. At that time, even galleons cannot swallow the dark energy. He doesn't know how long this boundary can be maintained, but now, he is watching the final evolution progress of the cold prison peacock mother in his attribute column slowly increasing. 7%, 8%, 9%. Little by little, fortunately, the power of distortion did not affect time. Garen sensed that his sense of time flow at this moment should be normal. Simply put down your mind completely and fight with the crystal to devour its dark energy at all costs. Even the dark matter mixed in it was directly converted into cold energy by him. Unconsciously, he slowly only had this one thought left. Devouring. I don't know how long it took, but Garen's consciousness gradually became blurred. No matter how strong his consciousness was, he would sometimes become sleepy. In a trance, he fell asleep. Endless white space. Garen stood alone in a white space, surrounded by nothing and a vast expanse of white. He looked up and saw that it was completely white and he couldn't see the edge. I looked at my feet again. There was only a piece of white, which looked very pure. There was nothing around, and I couldn't see anything. Except white, still white. This is here, Garen frowned slightly. He clearly remembered how he was frantically devouring countless dark energy just a moment ago, but now he suddenly came here. He looked down and saw a red rose in his hand. When he looked up again, he saw a huge red rose as tall as a person appearing in front of him. It's the kind of single rose that's been picked. It's so delicate and beautiful, and there's a very conspicuous thick lip growing on the side of the flower. There seems to be a blurry human face. Hey buddy, the big mouth on the rose said, do you know 1 + 1 = 2? Garen was stunned. Didn't you say that 1 + 1 = 2? He didn't know why he answered this question, but he answered naturally in his mind. Even he didn't think there was anything wrong with the rose talking. Hey buddy, Rose spoke again, do you know why 1 + 1 = 2? Garen thought for a moment and answered seriously. This is a very complex issue. After saying that, he ignored the roses, turned around and walked aimlessly in another direction.